Did you know that the human brain processes imagined threats with the same intensity as real ones? This means the fear of what could happen feels just as real, just as paralyzing, as something that is actually happening right now. It is a neurological reality that shapes our lives, often without our permission. We build walls around our hearts and our dreams, not to keep real dangers out, but to keep the imagined specters of failure, judgment, and shame at bay. We tell ourselves it's safer to stay small, to remain unseen, to never step into the arena where the critics are waiting. But what if the greatest risk isn't failing, but rather never trying at all? What if the cost of staying on the sidelines is our own sense of worthiness and joy? The call to be brave is not a call to be fearless. In fact, true courage cannot exist without vulnerability. It is born in the exact moment we feel that familiar knot of fear in our stomachs and decide to move forward anyway. It is about choosing to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome. This is the essence of what I call daring greatly. Sarah, a graphic designer from Austin, Texas, lived in a world that was shrinking by the day. Her fear was agoraphobia, a terrifying and profound dread of open spaces and situations where escape might be difficult. Her niece was turning 5, and the birthday party was being held at a local park. As she sat alone, listening to the joyful sounds of her family celebrating through a phone call, she felt a different kind of pain, the pain of disconnection. In that moment of profound loneliness, she made a choice. She decided she was willing to feel the terror if it meant she could feel connection again. Sarah's journey back to the world was built on a foundation of small, deliberate acts of courage. She started a daily habit she called threshold practice. Her first step was simply opening her front door and breathing the outside air for 1 minute. The next day, she stood on her doorstep for 2 minutes. Then, she took 1 step onto the sidewalk. Each step was a battle against the screaming internal alarms, a conscious decision to choose courage over comfort. She embraced the mantra, "I can do hard things." Her victory was not just reclaiming the ability to go to the park, it was reclaiming her entire life, one brave step at a time, proving that even from the deepest isolation, a path to connection can be forged. Marcus was a brilliant software engineer in Silicon Valley, a man whose mind could architect complex systems with elegant simplicity. Yet, in any meeting where he had to present his ideas, a different reality took over. His fear was glossophobia, the fear of public speaking. His voice would shake, his palms would sweat, and his carefully constructed thoughts would evaporate into a fog of panic. He would physically shrink, trying to make himself smaller, hoping to go unnoticed. His shift began not with a speaking coach, but with a therapist who introduced him to the concept of self-compassion. He started a daily journaling practice, not to log his failures, but to acknowledge his efforts. He would write down, "Today, I spoke up in a meeting with 3 people. It was scary, and my voice shook, but I did it." Marcus developed a ritual he called his pre-game routine. Before any presentation, instead of frantically reviewing his notes, he would spend 5 minutes in a quiet space. He would close his eyes and practice grounding exercises, feeling his feet firmly on the floor. He would visualize the presentation going well, not perfectly, but well enough. He would picture himself speaking clearly and connecting with his audience. Crucially, he also visualized himself handling a mistake with grace, recovering, smiling, and moving on. His voice, once a source of terror, became a testament to his courage, proving that our greatest perceived weakness can become the stage for our most profound strength. Elena, a retired teacher from rural Vermont, had dreamed her entire life of becoming a painter. She had the supplies, the sun-drenched spare room, and the time, but for years her canvases remained stark white. Her fear was atelophobia, the fear of imperfection, which manifested as a paralyzing fear of failure. Every time she picked up a brush, a chorus of critical voices flooded her mind. "You're not a real artist. You're going to ruin it. Who do you think you are?" The change for Elena started in a dusty corner of a used bookstore, where she stumbled upon a book about Zen philosophy and the art of wabi-sabi. the Japanese aesthetic centered on the acceptance of transience and imperfection. The idea that there is beauty in the flawed, the incomplete, and the modest was a revelation. Armed with this new philosophy, Elena created a daily habit, the 5-minute mess. Every morning with her coffee, she would set a timer for 5 minutes. Her only goal during that time was to make a mess on a small piece of paper. She could scribble, smudge, or splash paint. The only rule was that it could not be good. This practice was a playful rebellion against her inner critic. It was a way of physically and mentally practicing imperfection. Her home is now filled with her vibrant, expressive, and wonderfully imperfect paintings. She learned that the true failure was not a flawed painting, but the empty canvas, a symbol of a life unlived and a dream unexplored. As we look at the journeys of Sarah, Marcus, and Elena, we see that their fears were unique, rooted in different corners of the human experience. Yet, the anatomy of their courage is strikingly similar. None of them experienced a sudden magical eradication of fear. Instead, their transformations were quiet, gradual, and built upon a foundation of intentional practices. A crucial commonality is the shift in their internal monologue, from one of self-criticism to one of self-compassion. When we treat ourselves with kindness in the face of fear, we create a safe internal space to practice being brave. We stop being our own worst critic and start becoming our own biggest ally in the arena. Furthermore, each of them broke down their monumental fear into manageable, almost mundane daily actions. These daily practices create emotional muscle memory. They teach our nervous systems, little by little, that we can survive the discomfort. They build a track record of resilience that we can draw upon when the fear feels overwhelming. Finally, their stories are all rooted in a redefinition of faith. It was not a passive hope that things would get better, but an active faith in their own capacity to handle the hard parts. This is the essence of wholehearted living, having faith, not that we will not fall, but that we are strong enough to get back up. Their courage was not about being fearless. It was about being full of fear and showing up anyway. The stories of Sarah, Marcus, and Elena are not just inspiring anecdotes, they are practical roadmaps. The first step in this process is naming your fear. You cannot conquer an enemy you refuse to acknowledge. What is the fear that is holding you back? Be specific, write it down, give it a name. Now it's time to build your own small, courageous practice. Identify the absolute smallest, most manageable step you can take toward your fear. If you fear social situations, your step might be making eye contact and smiling at one stranger at the grocery store. If you fear rejection, it might be sending one email to a potential client or mentor. Finally, cultivate a practice of self-compassion. This is the antidote to the shame that fuels our fear. When you take your small step and it feels terrifying, or when you stumble, resist the urge to beat yourself up. Instead, practice saying, "This is hard. It's okay that this feels scary. I am brave for trying." The call to dare greatly is an invitation to step into your own arena. The world does not need more critics. It needs more people who are willing to be brave with their lives. It needs your art, your ideas, your voice, your love. Do not let fear have the final say. Let your legacy be one of courage. Let it be said that you showed up, that you let yourself be seen, and that you dared greatly. The arena is waiting. Step inside. Your story of conquering fear is ready to be written, and it begins with that one small, courageous step, today.